Delightful. We good?
Can we shut the door?
Please.
Well, it's open.
Open meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, leave it open. Shut the gym doors.
Want me to go shut the gym doors?
Mhm.
Want me to go shut the gym doors?
Yeah. I have the perfect
Hello.
solution. It's not a basketball. Are you there tomorrow morning?
Not as early as you, but yes.
Where, at work?
Yeah.
You get to go in later than that.
She's
It's not that she's going late. but
she's
I'm
going in early.
You get the text? I'm open.
Oh, yes. Did you go in today?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either. She didn't text me. I texted her. But by the time she got back to me, and she was like, "Oh yeah, my route is here," I was like, "It's not gonna happen today."
Everybody good? Okay, we'll start the meeting with roll call. Jack Brown.
Yep.
Reed Butler.
Here.
Jen Pendleton.
Here.
Polly Harlow.
Here.
And I'm Matt Benner. Administrators are all here. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any agenda adjustments? None? Public comment? Good. Presentations, none? Look at that, we're flying right through. Need an action on the minutes from September 9th.
A second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Did you get that, Adam?
The next regular meeting of the school board will be November 13th at 6:30 PM. The next meeting of the AOS board will be November 12th.
You don't know where.
Nope, that's not right. The next meeting at the AOS board will be
17th, isn't it?
October 17th
Location.
at location,
That hadn't
To
been
be
determined.
determined?
Yeah,
what time? Is it 6?
6.
Yeah.
Yep. Good catch.
The AOS report. So the last meeting we had at the AOS was more or less about the ESC. And we more or less went around and figured who was on board, who wasn't on board. And it was kind of split half and half at the moment, but I think by the end of the meeting, more or less everybody said it's a no-go. I know we all vote on them, but that was the heat of the room, I should say. Is that all we, that's all we did?
I would say that was that meeting. Yep.
Superintendent's report.
All right, the MSMA Fall Conference, if anyone's interested in going, that's in October. It's October 24th and 25th in Augusta. So if there are any board members who want to attend that, just reach out and we will get you registered for that conference. It's a good conference. It's very informational. So if anyone wants to go, just let us know. Last week for Wednesday through Friday, I was down in Connecticut, Westbrook, Connecticut for the New England Association of School Superintendents Regional Conference. It was okay. But we next year it's in Vermont, and 2 years after 2 years from now, I believe it's back in Maine. So, yeah, the district school related information, really, I don't have much to report. I know I was going to talk about the open house Thursday night, but I'll leave that to Adam because I'm sure he's got that in his report as far as this building goes. You should have got this today. It's pretty thick, so I didn't want to make hard copies of it for everybody, but if you want a hard copy, I can make you one. But I sent this electronically. It's the MSBA handbook. So if you want to look through that, And it might not be a bad idea if you plan on attending that training tomorrow night, that October 9th training at Great Salt Bay. That's at 5:00. If there's any questions or anything in this book, that'd be a good time to ask. I think it's Eileen King that's doing the presentation tomorrow night. So if anyone had any questions, you could bring them to her. If you're not going to that workshop and you look through it and you have some questions, you can just send them to me and I can get you the answers for them.
Can I have a hard copy?
You can have a hard copy. Would you like this hard copy?
I don't care.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's it.
Principals report.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start off with a teacher shout out to Lisa Steves. She's with an ed tech that's worked at this week for quite some time. She's supported the CAL program. And we don't have the CAL program.
She shut it.
Aware of that, but she is supporting students that were in CAL in the regular classroom this year, as well as other students in the class. And I just really want to highlight the work that she does here. She's a huge support for students and advocates for their needs, and we're just very fortunate to still have her on board here. This is an important update for general update. We're in a guest teacher crisis, I would say. Probably other schools are as well, but just is good for you all to know this. 10 out of 30 days that we haven't been able to get. It's been 10 out of 30 days that we haven't been able to get a guest teacher cover, like someone who's been out because of sickness or whatever. And so when that happens, you have to shuffle people around or run class by committee. Like we've had, whenever we had our teacher that was out sick a couple days, and pretty much everybody who wasn't in a classroom kind of covered a class during those times. And today we had we had someone was out today, and we had no sub for them. Rob was spending a lot of time in the mornings just making calls, and she made like 15 calls this morning, and just like there's no people aren't available. Either not quite certain if they're busy, or if they're not around, or if they're not interested in subbing anymore, or if they are choosing to guest teach someplace else that is paying their guest teachers more. I do know that some of the other local districts near us, like MSD 40 and RSU 13, both pay like significantly more their guest teachers. I just want to put that on people's radar, just because it's really critical to the functioning of the school to have people step in to guest teach in order to kind of keep things running smoothly. And we have to address it in different ways, whether it's looking at our guest teacher pay scale or whatever we're doing. It's just something that we should talk about. Definitely impacting the school. Okay. There was times when I had to teach our class, which I've done that before. In a pinch, but that means I'm not available to handle behaviors that are popping up or anything else that needs to be taken care of during the day. So it's definitely impacting us. And I don't think we're even quite into like the part of the year where most sicknesses are happening, because we're still outside quite a bit right now, and I just foresee it becoming I think it's going to impact us as we get into the fall and winter. But it's something that I felt that you should all be aware of. Right now, we've got open house happening on Thursday, so that's 5:30 to 6:15. We've got workshop with teachers on Friday. We've got some experiences planned for folks. One of the things that we're going to be working on as a group is talking about, we've created this a warm demander matrix. So there's a term that we like to use that has been used in the school here for many years about what is being a warm demander as a teacher. What does that mean? So basically it means having high expectations for students, but also supporting them whenever they need it. And so the staff, we're going to have some conversations about like, what does that look like? What does that sound like? What does fleshing that term out for staff, so that we're all kind of on the same page for that. So looking forward to some of those conversations with folks. We're still doing we're in the midst of our staff book study, The Anxious Generation. We've had a couple staff meetings where we've read different sections of that and have had conversations, full staff about connecting with that book. And maybe other people have seen this, but I'm seeing it pop up kind of everywhere now. I know some of the other districts in the area are starting to we're reading that book and talking about that book and I've heard on podcasts and stuff and just about how we've talked about this briefly before, but just about the shift from a play-based childhood to like a screen-based childhood and the rise of social media and better access to technology and just how it's rewiring adolescents' brains and what we're experiencing here in the school. And I've had lots of conversations with parents already this year with meetings, talking with them about their children and hearing the impacts that it has on students. So we're having those conversations and hoping to come up with some ideas for how we're going to address it at the school level, at the very least. So looking forward to those conversations, sharing our ideas with the board as we go through it. The other thing I wanted to highlight was some facilities stuff. We've got we just put in some. Actually, I'll talk about this. So wood chips, we're going to be doing a big load of wood chips out to the playground. I believe on either tomorrow or the workshop.
Tomorrow.
And kind of help spread those because it's a lot more than what we normally purchase for wood chips. And the reason we're doing that is just that we're letting kids be a little more freedom when it comes to how they use the swings and the slides and stuff like that. And in order to keep the kids safe, we want to make sure we have a safe setting. So we're really looking at boosting up the wood chips there. And then at our facilities committee meeting today, we talked about budgeting for next year even more so that those areas are fully chipped, just because we want kids to be able to play hard and run around and not have any major injuries from doing that. So I just want to highlight those pieces there. That's the highlights I have for the report. Anybody has any questions? Anything else? Happy to speak to it.
In regards to the guest speaker, guest teacher.
Yeah.
What is the discrepancy as to how far off are we from other districts?
I know RSU 13, but I don't know MC. I'm not sure what 40 is, but RSU 13 I think just made their guest teacher pay $240 a day. And I know our guest teacher pay is around $140. I think it's around that. I'm not positive on the exact, but it's a bit off. I'm not certain what guest teacher pay in the other buildings. I'm not certain. I think they're all pretty similar.
I can get that. If you want that information, I can get that for you.
Yeah.
So it is something that we should It's and I just want to go on record and say it's a hard job. I mean, it's I understand there's probably not a lot of people that want to do it, and I think a lot of schools rely on former teachers who are retired to kind of do that, and I think a lot of teachers are retiring and they're just tired. And they're coming in and they're seeing what it's hard work and what the behaviors that they might experience now are different than they might have been 10, 20 years ago that they're experiencing. So it's I think that might be also a barrier to it. But certainly it's important work. Compensate people fairly.
Thank you. Financial report, scenarios.
So, as you know, we've been working hard to adopt to fund this new accounting system for several months to generate a report, and you have now a report. It's still not being generated simply by pushing a button and app to fund like we will be able to do, but I've now kind of cracked the the issues that we were experiencing and can weave together a report manually that's accurate, this is the first month that I've been able to do that. So the financial report in here will show you a lot of information. You will also see things that I need to continue to clean up now that I can see the report. Specifically, you'll find things that where we have budgeted for a position or in one line, but are actually expending it out of a similar line that has a slight different number in the accounting number. And that's because there were a lot of available accounts when the team was setting up the payroll this year that existed from prior years. Maybe we used to put ed tech benefits in one line, then we adjusted that account number a bit. And then when we went to, the team set up the payroll, they saw 2 or 3 ed tech benefit lines, picked one, but it wasn't the same one that I had budgeted. So what I have to do in the next few weeks is go clean this up and get all that in the right categories. That's not everywhere, but it does show up in a few places. And I just want to kind of give you a heads up as you're looking through that you don't think a position wasn't budgeted or that a position isn't filled until you really kind of look at all the way through that cost center, because you will find some of these not duplicate account lines, but multiple account lines for the same position, paying out of one and budgeting in another. Another issue that I've run into as I get this data back is that it seems we've over encumbered a lot of the health insurance. So the health insurance seems to be running hot through this, but in fact, there's no reason it should be. So I'm going to go back and find out if we actually, my suspicion at this point, it's only a suspicion, is that we encumbered the full cost of the health insurance as opposed to the school share. So for example, if someone's contract is that the school pays 15%, or the school pays 85% and the employee is responsible for 15, we actually encumbered 100. So I got to go through and clean that up. I'm seeing a lot of things like that now that I can see this data. But bottom line, I'm seeing that the numbers are matching the budget to the degree that we would expect them to at this point. That I don't see anything that is, that is going, out of the gate wrong. That we're in the right place where we should be for this point in the year. There's a lot of things that need to be finished in your expenditure column. For example, the work that you're doing to finalize this contract tonight. Once we have that, we need to then go back and reset all those payrolls and encumber that money and see if it came out as projected, make sure that it does. And the same thing will apply to the, there's a number of things that we said, well, let's get the contract set and that will indicate how we handle this situation, this situation, this situation. And all that needs to kind of roll through here before we're that much further along in our understanding of how things are going. The biggest thing though is in special ed, there's tuition we planned for 2 students to attend. I think that the intention was that they would go to Bristol for the behavior program, and we budgeted for that. I think my understanding from talking to Kelly and Adam these last several weeks is that only 1 student is attending, and the cost as calculated by the DOE's guidance on that came out actually less than we budgeted for. So I think that there's going to be a savings in special ed for that line. There are a number of other places in your budget where we're not seeing savings. We're seeing other increases. So don't think of it as money that's immediately available, and plus it belongs in that cost center. But it is, it's just good safety net for what might happen elsewhere. So that's my analysis. As next month we'll see an tighter report that I've cleaned up a lot of that stuff that I found now that I can see a report, and have, I hope by then we have your mediation all wrapped up into the books so that we can see it, what it's doing. We can talk more about that. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue to clean this up. Related to that report, and as I mentioned, I'm still weaving it together, but I have had a considerable amount of success working with the support team at AptiFund. And in fact, the vice president of support kind of got in and kind of pushed a few things forward for me so that I won't have to weave this together for very much longer. Maybe one more month, or they actually may be able to put out a new release by the end of this month that'll allow me to do it at a push of a button like we should be able to. And that's, so that's some significant progress. Where the whole migration has been a heavy lift, but we're at the point now where we're cleaning all the stuff, getting the data in there and rolling it over for the fiscal year and having it work was really hard during this first quarter this year. Second quarter will be about fine tuning and getting it ready to roll into our new budgets. So I think that we'll be able to enter the budget development period with really using Aptifund the way it should be, and come out of it with really solid reporting at the end of this year for this year, and roll into next year with everything working well in the new system. The new system is good. The implementation process is extraordinarily challenging, as we knew it would be. So that's the finance report on this month's numbers.
Thank you. Facilities and maintenance.
No, he's got the,
Oh,
Got
you got
another
one.
he's got the
Financially
photo.
Right,
related
yeah.
kind of thing. We talked about budgeting, and as you know, your budget schedule will come in here in January, and we'll start putting together a budget. And Adam and I are already working on that. Meanwhile, the AOS budget needs to get done in the next 10 weeks. And we'll be meeting around December 20th, have the public meeting to pass an AOS budget. And at this point in time, it's absolutely uncertain how that's going to go down. Great Salt Bay is preparing a withdrawal plan that they intend to submit this month, by my latest understanding, working with Lindsay, to withdraw from the AOS at the end of this year. And they would completely withdraw and build their own central office, et cetera, and not be part of the AOS in any way. The evaporation of the ESC concept, is a big piece of the fact that there won't be 7 towns contributing to a central office anymore. Now, what is uncertain at this point is if, assuming that GSB is able to actually get through all the hoops of putting that withdrawal plan together internally and delivering it to the commissioner will take action, but that action is not necessarily guaranteed as a quick, do it just like this. They may come back and they may say, we're concerned about this, we'd like you to think about it, we want to understand better how you're going to do that. If there becomes any delays in their process, then we're running into a situation where we still need to approve a budget for the AOS without them having a clean withdrawal plan, and or an actionable withdrawal plan by the time that's needed to have a budget. And that puts us in a little bit of an uncertain situation because if you have all 7 towns and then they're going to be there, well, that's easy to do a budget. If you only have 4 towns because GSB is not going to be in there, well, that's pretty easy. We haven't done it before like that, but we can put a budget together. But if you're not sure what's happening, that's, it's a little bit difficult. So at this juncture, we have an AOS board meeting next week. I'm going to draft up the assumptions of what we understand at this point about the budget. Things like, if you have 7 towns in it, you would experience this kind of cost sharing formula than it is, following precedent. If you only have 4 towns, this is how the cost sharing formula that we currently have would be rebalanced. We'll do the calculations, and that's here in this 4 MSU, the municipal school unit is what MSU stands for. That model, that shows, Bristol with a percentage of 29.82 in the AOS, and Noblesboro at 23.43, and South Bristol at 9.05, and Jefferson is 37.7. So if we are rebalancing things around that, the costs would be balanced on the census. That's the law. We can't really change that. The budget that I have below here, that is a 4 MSU model, is just trying to give you an apples to apples kind of awareness of where we are right now. Right now, the way we had balanced things with certain costs being associated to the Great Salt Bay superintendent, I've taken all that out. I've taken that superintendent out here to get to this number. And there's a few associated lines with that. We also took out the IT director because something has to go, and that's an unfilled position. What did leave in in that whole 127,000-ish package for an IT director of health insurance and all the benefits and everything that go with that and his salary, I did leave in $25,000. And that is because we're using this year's IT director money with an unfilled position to provide 2 stipends to 2 of our IT integrators in the schools. Chase at Jefferson is providing cybersecurity support to the whole AOS. That's critical and can't exist without that kind of cybersecurity firewall maintenance. And so he's getting a stipend to maintain that. And then Reed here, and from Nobleboro, is getting a stipend to manage all the devices that those of us in the central office use, and the actual central office doesn't have any IT support except for that. So Reed comes in every once in a while and helps us, get things running again, or installing new drivers and printers or whatever we need from him. So there's a couple stipends there, but those 2 stipends add up $25,000, and that package was 127. So we've taken over $100,000 out of that, I believe, about 100,000, and then the superintendent. That's how we get down to this 1091. The underlying assumption in the rest of it is that there hasn't been any discussion about anything else changing, and how we deliver our services. I know that, we've talked about, there are some folks who believe the central office can become smaller without GSB in it. There are other towns that say that's just going to make it up efficient finally after all these years. And that's a discussion that the 4 MSU reps to the central office have to have. The point of this model here is to begin to show you how really the top changes, and to begin to say, okay, you have these new percentages, you have 4 towns now contributing. You can begin to see things like, what would it take to maintain our current level? Well, Nobleboro at 193, if with the budget that we have here, keeping everything the same, goes up $60,000, and that's a quarter of it. So you can just, it would take you cutting $240,000 in what's below to stay level funded. So, I want you to start seeing things like that so you can start doing the thinking that you need to do. But that's, that is a model. The inherent problem in this model, in terms of trying to get the political will of all 4 towns to move forward, is that you have 2 towns that sit next to each other way down at the end of the peninsula, and 2 towns that sit next to each other up here. And the 2 towns that sit next to each other up here, Jefferson and Nobleboro, would collectively have, 61% of the vote in governing the AOS, which leaves Bristol and South Bristol effectively governed by Nobleboro and Jefferson. And they're very much aware of that, and they ask us a lot of questions about that. And they don't seem too comfortable with that. And that's something to be aware of as you look at how to have a discussion with the 4 towns about what this new shape should be. When looking at the, it is, I think, this administration's, it's working with Todd and vision that the 4 towns hold together. That they find a way to work together. And I think that would be best, most likely, if they each had an equal vote in the governance. But that would mean equal pay. And that would mean, everybody paying 25% of the 4 schools, each paying 25% of the central office. The town that stays almost closest to where they are now would be Nobleboro, because you go from 23.5% to 25%. You go up a percentage and a half. That is, $17,000. But you basically, more than anybody else, you stay the same. Bristol saves a little bit of money. They save $50,000. Jefferson saves a lot. They save $135,000. And all those savings are paid by South Bristol, which would pay, instead of set $98,000 in the 4 MSU model at governance, at census weighted voting, they would pay $272,000. So they'd pay $180,000 more. And while we think that most decisions are made on just the dollar, I think South Bristol is very highly motivated by their independence, keeping their school open, and having an equal voice at the table. So I think that it is worth discussing with them I don't represent the people of that town or their school committee, but I put these numbers out here because I think it would be wise for the 4 AOS reps from these towns to sit down with South Bristol and say, if you pay an equal share, you get an equal vote. And that may be something that they respond favorably to, because I think that it is in all 4 towns' interests to stay together and have the most efficient operation of a single central office. But to get a new cost sharing formula like this, and this is the part that may or may not be, a challenge for you after all we've been through, but you would form some type of ESC. And it would be much different than the one I presented because you don't have 2 superintendents. So you can put the superintendent services and the special ed services and everything that you have in the AOS in the ESC model. The superintendent serves as the executive director. The reason the business manager was going to serve as the executive director is because you have 2 superintendents with 2 different things. And so you keep that separate. Now, you just package it all up as an ESC. You bring in all that revenue that comes with an ESC, or it's not, you don't want to say all that revenue. You bring in the revenue that's associated with the ESC. You still have the same management model that the AOS has, but now you have South Bristol paying a equitable share for the amount of work it takes to manage any school district. And you have, you've broken even effectively, and Jefferson saved a lot of money. And I think that's worth considering. So the reason I put this out here now is not to do anything other than plant some seeds and to start some conversations and to see where you can start saying, what about this, what about that with each other. The South Bristol Reorganization Committee did ask us to provide these numbers to them. So we did that the other day, and while we were at it, we gave them to everybody at this meeting because we don't want to be giving numbers out to one person and not giving it to everybody. So we have made sure that everybody's seeing everything as we have these meetings this week. But at this point in time, we're still not sure GSB can get out of the AOS by the deadline, but they almost nearly certain to be out by the following year. So we're not sure if this has to happen this year or the following, but it's coming. Not the ESC piece probably can't happen by this year because that's going to take dialogue beyond the amount of time we have for the application. And you might be well served to just keep an ear out for what's happening at the South Bristol reorganization discussions, because they talk about this. And I think that building those bridges for the 4 towns that I believe would choose to stay in an AOS model of some sort, or an ESC, AOS, whatever it is, to continue working together. We're presenting this just so that you can all be on the same page with what models are out there and how to start talking about a post-GSB alliance.
Appreciate it. Anybody have any questions for Peter? Okay. Now we'll move to facilities, which is Shep's not here. Do we have anything we wanted to share, or do share mostly?
I can share some of the highlights.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so, let's see. Talk about wood chips, we were hoping to get the windows in, the new windows for the former Cal wing around April break or the end of June. We're looking at getting the bathroom stalls put in, we're gonna hold off on those until next week, Christmas break.
Yep.
There's some boiler work that was put into the principal's report. You can kind of read the details on that. We're the document that we created, that's a 10-year capital improvement plan, and we're just putting in things that we know we're gonna need to think about down the road, and we're gonna use that document to help us create our facilities capital improvement part of the budget. Looking at that document. One of the things that we're hoping to have in our budget for next year is putting in a capital reserve fund. That's something that we're trying to work on. That hasn't been here before, and I know last time we were talking to people about that. Parking lot update. The surveying's been done. So we're going to get a map of the plot. The next step, which will probably be in the next fiscal year, will be to flatten out that spot where we got the property and get the trees out. We'll get an estimate for that soon. Shep is looking at updating the light switches in 8 of the rooms so that we can turn half of the lights off. Right now, these are all on or all off, and now go into the safes. We had someone from the Maine Municipal Association come and meet with Shep and I a couple of weeks ago, and they're gonna be filing a report with us just to kind of get, these are things that in the building that we can take care of from a loss and risk assessment standpoint. They go through all the schools and every once in a while, every so many years, and just kind of meet with the staff there to, to get recommendations. And then, let's see, yeah, that was it. Anything else you want to add, Matt?
No, the only thing we do have to do though, when it comes to the grounds, is we do have to file and get lawyers to draw up paperwork so we can.
Yep.
have everything
Accept,
signed.
yep.
Yeah, accept it and figure out an exact donation. I mean, not a donation, a write-up for a donation.
For the donation that you're
Correct.
receiving.
But that's it. Okay, on to old business. Educational Service Center update.
As you articulated earlier, the consensus I would say, majority of the feeling at the last AOS meeting was that the ESC Center, as presented, was not something that we wanted to move forward with. We did want to get some kind of official vote on that. So as we were talking about it, we said it doesn't have to be a no vote or a yes vote. You could simply vote to table it, considering what Peter shared, that there may be some kind of a revisit to an ESC type formation further down the road. That being said, in all transparency, Jefferson last night decided to vote no, with the thought process that they could still come back and revisit something else, a different configuration in the future, because as Peter just said earlier, he has the one that was being presented now was a seven town ESC with 2 districts in essence accessing the services, whereas anything moving forward would most certainly be a 4-town type ESC with just 1 district accessing those services, which is why you can make the changes that Peter recommended or didn't recommend, but suggested earlier. So at this point, we just want to get some kind of a vote on record that the board has taken action on the ESC moving forward. Tabling it is what we had on here as we were designing the agenda. And as I said, I guess it depends how you feel you're strong which way. You could vote no. And I don't think that will have any impact on any future discussion. So it would really be however someone wants to make a motion. But we'd like some action taken in regards to it tonight.
A motion for the either approval or denial of the ESC. I'm not big on tabling it because we would be starting over anyway. And, I just think I think everybody here more or less was on board of not doing it. So I would just rather close this.
So can I just recommend, you said you'd like to make a motion of either or approving or denying. Would you just make a motion one way so that it's
Okay,
vote?
I make a motion to deny, to
Against,
vote against the ESC. Second it. Any discussion on it? No? All in favor?
Unanimous.
New business.
Yeah, this is just really informational for the board, although it will be something that board members will have to act on in the future. One of the other districts brought up a question about a policy, and I went to the website to try to look for the policy, and I couldn't find it. So I couldn't understand why it wasn't on the policy links on the website. Apparently what happened in the past was the website is updated with the mandated policies that boards have to have that were just recently reviewed. So they were 23, 24, I think that they were reviewed. And those are the only policies that are showing on the website. And perhaps the reason for that is if you go back into the policy binders, there are some that are actually typewritten, I think, on a typewriter, because there's some that are just really old, but they're not mandated, so you don't have to have them. But I think it's important that anyone who wants to look at your policies knows what you have for actual policies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in addition to the active links that you have on your website for your policies, I'm going to say that, put something to and I'll run it by legal counsel just to make sure it's accurate, but I'll say something along the lines of, in addition to these policies that you can find on the website, the district also has, or the school also has these policies, and I'll just name them and identify what they are. With a disclaimer on there that as those get reviewed, they will then become part of the active link, with the goal being to have all your policies accessible on the web. But I think it's important that they know they have the policies. We'll also have to tell them where they can find those policies. And unfortunately, at this time, there are 3 binders. And there's one here at the school and there's one at central office that have those policies in them. I'm a little concerned too that the binders may not be the same. So we're going to have to go through the binders and compare to make sure that those are accurate. And then we'll have to carve out some time to review, bring policies to the board for just review. Or maybe if you review it, then maybe you want a motion to make some changes to it. But as I said, that's pretty time consuming. I don't know if any of you went through the mandated policy review, but that probably took you a while in and of itself. So that is something we'll do. 2 years. Yeah.
I think it was 2 years.
So it's very, very time consuming, and probably a summer project, to be honest with you. But you do have the policies, so you don't, but people just don't know you have the policy if they go to the website. And they certainly can come into the school and ask to see the policy, or they can come to central office. I'd probably encourage them more to come to central office, because you'd probably rather have people coming to central office that may or may not have children in the building. So that's the plan moving forward with the policy. So this is really just informational for the board, but it's work that has to be done.
Okay. So we're going to be going into executive session. Now, is there any one topic we need to come back out of executive for?
Yeah, could be a couple.
So should we do those first?
They
So
are.
we can-
They're listed
Okay,
that
they're
way.
first?
Yep.
And then the last, can we go back in?
We can go back in. Yep. So what you'll do is you'll go into an executive session, you'll come out of executive session, everybody can come back in. And then most likely there'll be a motion made. The board will vote on the motion. And then it'll be public, it'll be recorded, because I'll shut this off when we're in executive session. I'll turn it back. Someone remind me. I'll turn it back on when we come out of executive session, to capture whatever motion and vote occurs. And then you'll make a motion to go back into executive session. So anyone who wants to stay for the entire meeting will have to get up and leave again. And then you'll come out of that executive session and make a motion.
To close.
And then the final one, there may be a motion there. So
Right.
there could be 3 motions. You have 3 executive sessions
Okay.
on your agenda. But if there's any motion made, that has to be done in public.
Okay. I guess at the moment at 6:11, we're going to executive session.
You need a
A
motion for
motion
that.
to go into executive session.
Second,
So get that, Adam?
all in favor? Yep, good.
Peter, can you stay for this one?
You can come back in if you like, but there's not gonna be a motion, so you'll just be coming in and going back out again. And you can, okay. We're gonna leave the door open for this part. So I make a motion that we go back into executive session.
Second. Time,
6:19.
Thank you.
So that was, so Ray was the motion. I'm trying to capture this now. So Ray's
Ray
motion and
motion.
sorry,
That's all right.
Zach was the second. And it was
All in
unanimous.
favor, everyone? Yep,
Yes.
okay. 4.
Okay, hold
Next.
on. I gotta go back in.
Shut her down.
Yep.
So how do I motion? That was motion to accept.
Just make a motion to accept the negotiated CBA with the Teachers Association.
Camouflage.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll put that.
The second? Are you ready?
Good.
Yep.
So I'm going to motion to accept the teachers' CBA,
Ratify it.
ratify it. Sorry.
Can I second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Good. Do we need to go back out or not?
You gotta go. I don't know.
Do we need to go back out or not?
for now. For what?
Let's go back out.
Okay. Is everybody getting their?
Hold on, I need someone to make a motion.
Motion to
I
go,
like motion.
okay, motion,
Are you catching these, Adams, these motions?
second. Rig? Okay,
I didn't.
JP, second RB, and then we voted 5-0.
6:29.
Thank you, Adam.
So should I at least let them know
Every time you
what
turn
we're
that on,
motioning, or
it's
just
great.
motion to accept his
If there's anybody
resignation?
watching.
You can tell, you can explain it. Just say that you might extend his resignation.
I think it'll be on YouTube like
Will
tomorrow.
Yeah, he's ugly.
All right, what time do we come out? I'm sorry.
6:42. Okay, so we are, so Zach has resigned from the school board because there's a conflict between coaching and being on the school board. And he'd rather coach his kids and be a part of the kids' part. So I motion to accept his resignation. And I also, in the same motion, would like to nominate Mike Ward. Appoint Mike Ward for the remainder of this year's term.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
You got 4. He abstained. I'm assuming you're abstaining. Yeah, no.
Now that everybody's walked back and forth, I am going to declare at 6:43, the meeting is adjourned.
So Matt, when will we sign?
You want to do it now?
Yeah, do we have one ready to go?
There's that.
Too.
Yeah, I know, that's
We
what I-
would want to look at, it. So it might take us a couple of seconds.
You didn't print one out?
We thought it was coming